In this lesson, we're going to continue our study of English reading. We're going to read Gospel of St. John, chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, with a focus on verse 3. Verses 1 and 2 will be review from lesson 1, and we'll be adding verse 3 in this lesson. In the first lesson, I mentioned that there were a great number of symbols and sounds that needed to be learned in the first lesson, but as we go on, the number will get smaller and smaller with each lesson, and most of the symbols will be review from previous lessons. Here you can see that in lesson number 2, there are only 7 new sounds to be learned. And still, that's going to decrease as we move forward in this course. So there are 7 new symbols and sounds to be learned, 4 new memory words, and that's it. We can read verses 1 through 3 of chapter 1 of the Gospel of St. John. So let's walk together through these sounds. We'll review the sounds from lesson 1 and then learn the new sounds for verse 3 in lesson 2. To begin, we have the English short A, the letter A marked by the short symbol above it, and this makes the sound ah, ah. Next, we have the English schwa A with a dot underneath, and this makes the sound uh. We then have the English long A marked by this horizontal line, which makes the sound a. Next, we have a new sound. We have the rounded English A. You can see the letter A with a rounded symbol above it, and this symbol represents the sound aw, aw, aw. Next, we have the English long E, which makes the sound e, e. We then have the English schwa E, which makes the sound uh. And then we have the symbol for the English silent E, which makes no sound. We have the English short I, which makes the sound I. We then have the English short O, which makes the sound ah. We have the English schwa O, which makes the sound uh. A new symbol is the English diphthong OU, the English diphthong OU, which makes the sound ow, ow, ow. We then have another new symbol, the classical Y, which makes the sound E, E, E. And another new symbol, which is the English diphthong Y, the English diphthong Y marked with a long sign above it that makes the sound I. Moving on to the consonants, we have the classical B, B, the classical D, D, and the classical G, G. We have a new symbol, the consonant sound H, which is simply a rough breath, the classical H. Next, we have the English digraph LL, which makes the sound of the classical L, which we haven't seen yet, but is the simple L, L, L. We then have the classical M, which makes the sound M, the classical N, which makes the sound N, the English digraph NG, ng, the English R, R, the classical S, S, the voiced S, J. The classical T, 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 t. This is a new sound in this lesson. The classical T, 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 t. We then have the English digraph TH, 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 and the voiced digraph TH, the. And then lastly, the English W, w, w. So these are our elementary sounds for lesson 2, which provide us with all of the sounds that we'll need to read verses 1 through 3. Each of these should be studied and memorized using the flashcards provided in the lesson, or whatever means you'd like to use to work on memorizing these symbols and their sounds. In this lesson, there are 4 memory words. We see here the word were. And the reason why we memorize certain words is because they're words that are difficult for students, and yet they're common. So rather than have the children struggle with these each time they see them, we simply learn them as memory words and pay attention to their difficulty by giving them special attention. The word were, we see we have the English W followed by the English schwa E, w, and then the English R, were, and a silent E, which is not pronounced. Next, we have the memory word by. We have the classical B, followed by the English diphthong Y, which we learned in this letter, which makes the sound by. Next, we have the word any. We have the English short A, the classical N, and the classical Y, E, Annie. Lastly, we have the English rounded A, aw, followed by the English digraph LL, which makes the sound L. This word reads all. And these are our 4 memory words for lesson 2. Now, you can see that I've written the text here with no marks, which the students should look at as they begin the lesson. And then I've added the text again. You can see this says syllabication. That means the words have been divided into their syllables when any word has more than one syllable. We can see the word beginning has been marked into 3 separate syllables in the first line and again in the second line. And we can see in verse 3 that the word without has been divided into 2 syllables, and any has also been divided into 2 syllables. So make sure the children learn to mark syllables and divide words into their parts, as this will help them with reading. Lastly, we have the text with all of the sounds and symbols marked in the text. And so the children should just work through these slowly, one by one, until they're all learned and recognized, and they can read this entire passage using the marks to help them. Once they're able to do that, you should remove the marks and train the children to be able to read the text without the marks being written and added to the text. Remember, in the first lesson, I explained that an orthography exercise can also be completed where the children are given the blank text, as here in section 3. The children are given the blank text and then asked to make all of the markings on the different letters to show their understanding of the sounds represented by each letter or group of letters. So that's all for lesson 2. Our reading of John chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. I hope that this is a helpful overview for parents leading their children to read in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. If you have any questions about this lesson, any of its content or the sounds, or even just how to use this lesson, please contact me. I'm happy to help, and I'll answer any practical questions that you have. One other note is that if you have a child who struggles with pronunciation, not with reading, but with simple pronunciation of sounds, you need to know that that's often just a developmental issue that goes away with time, and it's not something to worry about. Remember that these sounds of these symbols and letters, they're made with the speech organs. And these organs are physical organs of the body that are themselves developing as the child grows. The child's mouth is changing shape. The child's teeth are developing. The tongue is growing, and children are becoming more capable of controlling and using their tongue with self-control. Breathing is required to form these sounds. Using the nose is required for these sounds. So there are many different parts of the throat and mouth and nasal cavity that are needed to just pronounce words correctly. And sometimes these problems are just a matter of development, and you need to be patient. However, you'll notice that if your child does have a problem with pronunciation, if you use these lessons to understand the sounds represented by these symbols and learn a bit about how these different sounds are pronounced, you can be your own speech therapist for your children. It's a very simple study that, unfortunately, the therapists turn into something of a mystery science, but it's really very simple. If you have a specific pronunciation issue with one of your children and you'd like some help, contact me because I can help you to diagnose what's causing the problem and how it can be fixed. One way we can do this is by simply using your phone to videotape the child attempting to pronounce the sound that he or she has trouble with. And I can tell by looking at that what the problem is, and we can work on remedying it together. And just giving the child drills to practice with, helping the child to understand what's going on in his or her mouth as these sounds are being made. And we can try and work out that difference together. But remember, these pronunciation issues are common in young children, and they're often just related to their physical development. So it may be something you just need to be patient with. I hope that's a helpful overview of Lesson 2. Again, if you have any questions, please get in touch. God bless your studies.